Okay.
Me neither. I'll teach you.
Hello and welcome to MAKElive. Hi, my in-studio audience. So glad to have you guys today. I was just going over the format of the show. We have an exciting show today. We have artist Fiona Eden here, and she is going to totally blow our minds. I said, how many times am I going to say that? A lot.
A lot of tote puns.
She's going to be showing us how to construct tote bags. I can't say enough how much I love Fiona's work. She is an artist in many areas and art forms. So today we get to enjoy this one part of Fiona's art making. And I can't reiterate enough, this show is built on you all, your questions. So if you have them, please keep them coming. Also for my audience out here in internet land, please bring your questions in and we'll get those to Fiona. She's an expert at sewing, so I would love to introduce you to Fiona Eden. Hi, Fiona.
Hi.
Thanks so much for coming out.
Yes, coming out to my job.
Yes, Fiona, secret, she does work with me all the time, and I love her. So, yes, out to your job in the makerspace.
I like this being my job. It's fun.
Yeah. So, before we begin, let's pretend I don't know you.
Okay.
And some of our audience does not know you.
Yes.
Tell us about how you got into this art form and what inspires you.
Yeah. So, in terms of like how I got into sewing in general, my mom's family is like a long line of sewers and seamstresses and fiber artists of all kinds. So, my great grandmother made curtains for a living. That was her job. And then my grandmother was a quilter and a sewer and a knitter and she did everything. And then my mom also sews. She famously like made all of her clothes in college because she didn't have any money to actually buy clothes. So it's something that I've been around my whole life, and I knew how to hand stitch, but I didn't know how to machine sew until I bought my mother a vintage sewing machine a couple years ago for Christmas. Me and my sister and my grandmother all went in together to get her one because hers had been broken for many years. And then I think I was actually the first one to sew on it, not her. I just asked her to show me what it did, and then since then I sit down to sew all the time, have my own machine now. It was kind of one of the things I picked up in the pandemic when I had much more time. I was able to just kind of go in on learning it. So, yeah.
What machine was that? What was your starter machine?
So, but the machine that I learned on was a vintage Elna from the 1970s, which was like a pseudo luxury sewing machine brand. Super nice. Still the smoothest sewing machine I've ever worked with. And very cool. Very different, not super different from modern machines, but different in a couple of key ways.
Yeah,
So,
which maybe we'll learn about today. Which I guess jumps us into materials. What machine are we using here today?
Today we are using the library sewing machines. We have Janome Schoolmates, which are a basic computerized machine. But they're really great, and their whole ethos was to be a learning machine, which they really are. Everything is very clearly labeled. which is nice. You have much more detailed diagrams than most sewing machines will give you about how to thread and what direction you need to put things in. So they do a great job.
Yeah.
I enjoy them.
And so what other materials do we need to make a tote?
We need about a yard of fabric, and it can be multiple kinds of fabric. So if you look at, these are the totes that I have already made. And on both of them, I think I used 2 different fabrics. So I had, for this one, I had the blue for the body of the tote, and then the white as my kind of accent color that I did the straps and the pocket in. And then this one, it's just the pocket that's the accent fabric. So you don't have to have all of your fabric be the same. And in fact, I think the one that we're gonna actually do today, I have 3 different fabrics going on. I have tote body fabric, which is kind of a white cotton muslin, and then a green cotton for our straps, and then an accent fun printed cotton. I recommend, if you're gonna make a tote bag, you want it to be sturdy. So you want something that's a little on the thicker side, a little weightier. I do like printed cottons, but I would stick to like the pockets for those. And then for the actual body of the tote, something like a twill or something with a little bit more weight to it. You can often, if you go to a fabric store, on the top of the bolt you should see like the grams per square meter, and you want that to be a little bit on the higher side. So I would find a cotton and kind of compare that number to some of the other ones on the top, and look for something that's a little bit larger. You can also just look for twill weaves, which are, instead of a plain weave, which is just over under, twill goes over, I can't remember exactly, but it's over or under 2 as opposed to 1, and get these diagonal lines, and it's a stronger base fabric.
Stronger.
So,
And
yeah.
just to help me ballpark,
Mhm.
I'm going to shop for fabric. What number is a higher number?
I actually do not know off the top of my head, because I don't often
You
look,
just know.
because I kind of can just
Yeah.
feel it.
Okay.
Which is why I said, look at
Just
a
compare.
and see. Yeah.
Okay.
Just compare. What you don't want is like a mesh or a net or a chiffon, anything like that.
Yeah.
But
And how about a stretch? Is that
no, you would not want to stretch for this.
Okay.
Stretch, the elastic and stretch, no matter what you do, is going to break down over time.
Mhm.
So in theory, you could use it, you'd have a bag that's going to be weighted down a lot more, and you're going to, it's going to wear out faster
okay?
than if you're just using plain woven fabrics.
That sounds good. You guys good? All right. What about our string here? Yarn, fabric,
Our string,
thread.
So our thread, this is just a polyester sew-all thread. I like polyester threads. I'm not a big fan of cotton. It's the other one that you can find pretty easily.
Okay.
And cotton thread tends to be like pretty fuzzy, which is not something that you want in good thread, because those fuzzes can catch on things. And yeah, this is just a regular sew-all weight. I really like Gooderman thread. It's my favorite brand.
Okay.
But other threads will work.
Yeah.
I'm also using, just for the sake of making it easier to see, I'm using a thread that's going to stand out on the fabric, so you guys can actually see my stitching and what I'm doing, which can be really fun, because it's like, whoa, look, you can see all the stitch lines. But if you're not as confident, it also shows your mistakes pretty well. So that's kind of like up to whoever is doing the sewing. If you feel confident and you want to have fun, go with a contrast thread. But if you don't feel so confident, go with one that matches your fabric.
You want to hide your
really
stitches?
well. Yeah.
Okay. And anything else we might need?
Scissors and a measuring tool and an iron.
Now, I know you. Will you show off your scissors?
Yes, I will show off my scissors.
Scissors are an important
These
tool.
These are my scissors. These are pretty small. but they cut really nicely. They're very sharp, and they're pretty.
And we do try to keep our fabric scissors
Yes.
just for fabric.
Scissors should just be used for fabric. You're gonna wear them out much quicker if you use them on other things, paper or what have you. So I keep mine in a special little place, and I only pull them out when I'm sewing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else we need to get started?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That is it.
Now, if I'm at home wanting to make a tote, did you make your own pattern?
I did. So the nice thing about a tote bag is that it's all rectangles,
Yay.
which is actually a lot easier to sew, because anytime you're cutting something that is not a straight line, the fabric is more prone to distorting as you tug on it. And with a bunch of rectangles, you don't really need a pattern, because it's just cut out so and so many inches by so and so many inches. So I made myself a little color chart, which tells me what all the pieces that I have are.
Do you think you could put that under our close-up camera
Yeah,
for
I
a
can.
second? And let's see if that is that too close. We can maybe
You do
lift
it
it.
like this.
But just so viewers can see, it's just rectangles
It's just rectangles. Some
their-
skinnier and some
with
fatter.
their dimensions.
With their
Okay,
dimensions.
thank you.
And this was based on like a yard of fabric, so the big orange box that goes all the way around is like your yard of, I think I did 45-inch wide, which is like a standard quilting cotton. And then it's just all your pieces on top. So you can see you actually have a fair bit of fabric left over if you get a yard.
That's really
But
smart.
you can also just hobble it together from whatever you have around, which
Yeah.
is kind of what I'm doing today.
Did you make that in Excel?
I did. I
That's
made
so
it in
smart.
Excel. It took me a bit to
You're
get
using
it. I had
every
to-
inch.
I had to make the cells squares, which took a second, but once I did that,
That's really
it was
clever.
nice. Yeah.
Okay, let's dive in.
So we have 6 pieces, if I am counting correctly. You can't really see. On the inside of the tote, I have another pocket because I love pockets.
Me
So
too.
this is one piece. Then this outer pocket is one piece. Then I do 3 straps for this tote bag because I like having the option to use shoulder straps or to do a crossbody, which I currently have tucked into the tote.
I didn't even
But it's
know.
a very long strap, so you can actually wear it, which is nice if you have a lot of like heavy stuff in the bag.
Yeah, it's a transformer bag.
That's 3 more pieces. And then the final piece is the actual body of the tote bag. You can do the body piece in 2 separate pieces, which is really good, especially if you have a fabric like this one, for example. These flowers, if I were to make a bag out of them and just fold it in half of them would end up upside down. So then is when you would do it in 2 pieces and rotate so that you don't end up with upside down patterns. Or you can have upside down if you want, but most
Yeah.
people don't want.
Yeah.
So
Then you gotta line them up.
yeah, and then you gotta line them. Lots of funky things. But those are our 6 pieces.
Okay.
The biggest one is the body piece of the tote bag, which, according to my notes, is a 36 by 15 rectangle. So I'm gonna take my fabric here. 36 is a yard. So that is nice and easy. And then I brought in fabric from home, and it is kind of covered in cat hair because I have 3 cats. But
It's gonna be made with love.
yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, exactly. Ideally, you would iron your fabric, and the pieces that I'm actually going to be sewing with today, I've all ironed, but I did not iron this one just because of time. So
Do you need weights?
I might. Take my stick here. If you have fabric that is a plain weave, so it's just that over under, and you should see like a bunch of tiny little squares on it, you can just like cut a line and then tear. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to tear too far, but in theory that is possible with plain weave fabric. Right now I'm just going to make a little notch at my 36 mark. And then in this direction we're doing 15. And these numbers are not like precise. There's wiggle room. So every so often I'll do this like as a program where people can come into the library and at least get their fabric pieces cut out and then watch me do the sewing part. And I had one patron who came to that program and got really into it and was making everybody tote bags. And she was like, yeah, and then I hope you don't mind, I messed with all of the rectangles because I wanted it to be a little bit wider but a little bit shorter. And I was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's part of the beauty of this process is that you can move things around. So,
I have 2 questions.
yes.
One, does it matter which direction the fabric is
Mhm.
going? Did we answer that? And I wasn't listening.
Only really if you have a pattern on your fabric.
Okay.
For this one, I'm not particularly concerned. If you want to
Ex-
take it like super in depth, it kind of matters,
Okay.
but not in any
Not for
way that
us.
I would pay like attention to as a beginner.
Okay.
So-
And does your pattern include a seam allowance?
So it does, but you don't need to account for it when you're just doing the cutting parts.
Okay.
So I'll talk about that more
Okay.
as we get to the actual sewing part.
All right. I learned so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, do you wash your material, your fabric before you sew it, just so that it doesn't shrink?
Yeah.
Cause
So
issues?
the question was if I wash my fabric beforehand, and the answer is if I'm gonna machine wash it after it's sewn, then yes. So with the tote bag, if you want to put it in the washer, you can. So it's a good idea to do that. Can't remember if I did with this fabric or not, but in general, I do. For especially if I'm making like a piece of clothing or anything like that, I always machine wash my fabric first. And you will get a little bit of shrinkage, depending on the fabric. Sometimes it's more or less extreme, and then you will have to spend a very long time ironing your fabric afterward because it will come out all wrinkly, but
So
worth
you
it.
machine wash, iron, then cut.
Yep, that would be machine wash, iron, cut is the order. Alright, I'm gonna go across here at my 15 all the way to the end. And I'm using, the pen that I'm using is a erasable pen, which the way that these actually work is that if you get the ink hot, it disappears. So the friction of erasing causes the heat that the ink disappears, but it's also really nice for fabric because when you iron it, it disappears. So
And that's just like a regular, like office pen.
yeah, as long as it's erasable ink.
That's really cool.
Yeah. This one in particular is a Pilot friction, but yeah, any of the erasable ones should do the same thing. It'll work the same way.
I'm holding my breath for you.
I know. I'm doing a little bit haphazard here.
She's working with the setup I forced her into.
But that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not my goal here.
And I notice you're keeping those scissors kind of on the table.
Yeah, so if you lift up on your fabric, like your scissors into the air, you're gonna pull on it in ways that can cause a little bit of distortion as you're cutting. I don't think it would be particularly bothersome for this pattern, but for other things, it might.
I really like that sound.
I know, it's a very satisfying sound.
Yes. The ASMR portion.
It's the other thing about good scissors. They make really good snipping sounds. So there's our first body piece.
Okay.
We're going to put that off to the side. And then I have...
Before you move on, can
Yeah.
I feel the fabric to see how thick it is for reference?
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
We're passing around the fabric so that everyone can kind of feel the weight and thickness of it.
Sorry, Internet Land.
Sorry, Internet Land, for...
You miss out on that.
They do. You have to come to the library.
Alrighty. So I'm going to use this guy here for my pocket pieces.
Okay.
I don't think there's enough of it to do my strap pieces, so I'll just do those in the red. And with this guy, I am going to have to think about where I'm cutting in terms of the pattern. So we'll measure. I might actually end up changing my rectangle's width based on the stripes that are on the fabric, so I don't end up with like half a stripe and then it's cut off. So our outer pocket is 20 inches by 8 and our inner one is 16 by 8. So they're the same width, but the outer one is going to be a little longer. Let's see here.
So I don't think I'm as cool that I could just measure out a square. Is it possible that you would sometimes make paper patterns and then put those on, or
If you're a little less
a timid?
familiar
Yeah.
with this process, that can be useful. That's where, and we can go ahead and do it for this one because I'm going to give myself some extra room. That's where the tearing gets really useful.
Oh.
Because if you tear, what's happening is you're going between the weave of the fabric, so you're always going to get a straight line, which is nice.
Okay.
So
That would be fun to see.
with the print, it's a little bit funky because if the print's not on the weave right, then it's not going to look totally straight.
Yeah.
But so I'm going a bit wide here. I'm getting the borders, and then I'm getting this white stripe and this black stripe. And I might, we'll talk about this when we do it, use a wider seam allowance so that those borders kind of disappear. But I wanted to give them to myself for working room.
Yeah.
I'm gonna snip at the edge. So this is what I was saying about wiggle room. I'm going with closer to 10.5 inches as opposed to 8 for my width.
Okay.
Because this pattern is not the exact size. So I made my 2 little notches
All
at
right.
the end, then I'm literally just gonna go like that.
I wish I had slow-mo, Cam.
And this one actually, this print is pretty on. So like I got that edge of that
Wow.
stripe pretty exactly, which is
It looks
really
perfect.
nice. And
My
we're gonna
eyes are
do
so
that.
big.
You ready?
I'm
Here we go
ready.
again. Okay.
Can I see that one? Did it work too?
Yes, it did. It
Oh
sure
my
did.
stars. Who needs scissors?
Who needs scissors?
We have
Now,
Fiona.
There are some disadvantages to doing it this way. For example, like, I'm gonna come over
Not
to
in
the
my
close-up.
book.
I'm gonna come over to the close-up cam and you'll see it a little bit
Okay,
more.
let me get you there. Okay.
You're gonna get a lot of these little threads.
A little fray.
These little flyaways.
But you have
And
like
you're
an
more
inch of
fraying.
seam
but-
allowance on each side.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's part of the advantage of
That's
cutting
great.
wide. But so, it's not useful 100% of the time, but
But
it
you
can be.
look amazing.
It looks really cool. Alright, let's see how wide. This piece is 21 inches wide, but I do have a little corner. Or long. Which is perfect.
Okay.
I'm gonna just snip this bit that's not aligned. One nice thing about the cutting mat that I have with the grid on it, I can kind of eyeball whether or not something's square
Mm-hmm.
just by looking at it. Alrighty. And then I would we're not actually going to sew with these pieces because we don't have time. So I would do the same thing with the inner pocket, which is just 2 inches shorter. So I would
Oh,
just-
for the one inside the tote, the secret
Mhm.
pocket?
Yeah,
Okay.
the secret pocket. So I would do the same thing. I would measure down. We're at 21. I would find 16. I would make my little snip, and I would go whoop.
Yeah. Okay.
And then our straps here, we're gonna do with the red. I have 3 of them. I have one that's really long for the crossbody strap, and then I have 2 that are shorter for the shoulder straps. The shorter ones are both 35 inches, which is actually the length of this cutting mat, which is nice.
That's very convenient.
And they're 3 inches wide. If you're not used to sewing on narrower spaces, it might be useful to make them like 4 inches wide. I wouldn't go any wider than 4, but sometimes the 3 is a bit narrow.
Tell me what could go wrong.
So what is eventually going to happen with these straps?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do them in a way that you didn't have to turn them inside out, because turning a long, narrow piece of fabric inside out is really tedious and obnoxious.
Yes.
So what is going to happen is we're going to fold both edges in and then fold the whole thing in half.
Okay.
And that will completely contain the raw edges of our fabric. And if you don't have as much practice with that folding and sewing in straight lines, this folds down to about 1 inch wide, and if that can be a little narrow for people.
Okay.
If you do 4 inches, it works out to about 1.5 inches wide, depending on how good your folding is.
Okay.
So it's up to the sewer, but if you want to make it a little easier on yourself, you can go a bit wider.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna kind of line up the bottom edge of this fabric with one of the lines here, and then I'm gonna go 3 inches up and snip. And then Yeah. Ripping Typing is also faster.
Yes. Ah, that was great.
Alright. There we go. And you do that one more time for your cross.
For each
For your
shoulder
shoulder.
strap. Okay.
And then the crossbody strap is 45 inches long as opposed to 35, so it's 10 inches longer.
Okay.
But I have this little chart, many printouts of it hanging around. So if anybody here wants one, and if you're online, you can come in and get one.
Yes, we totally will.
That's definitely an option. And those are all our pieces. Through the magic of having done things ahead of time, I have them all in another tote.
Yay.
So these are the ones we're actually going to be sewing.
Okay.
And also for the sake of keeping things within our time frame, I've pre-done 2 of our straps, but I have the 3rd one, so we'll see the process.
Yes, that sounds perfect.
Alrighty. I actually am going to prep.
Wait, on that one long one, did you combine fabrics?
I did. I didn't
How
have enough
cute.
fabric for the whole long one, so I combined it. So I just I did the same 3-inch wide, and then I did whatever length I had, and I just cobbled them together until I think this might actually be longer than 45, but that's okay.
I like the look of that, though.
Yeah,
That's fun.
Gives it a nice, like, patchworky feel.
Mm-hmm.
So. Alrighty. We actually are gonna work with this guy, now that I think about it, because I need to show you guys how to put the outside pocket together, which I think we're gonna do first.
Okay.
So the way that the outside pocket is designed, you sew it in half, and then you attach it to the front of the tote. So our first step here, whenever you're sewing, you always sew what's called, not always, almost always, sew what's called right sides together, which is like the part of your fabric that you want to be visible at the end of your project should not be visible when you're actually sewing. And what that does is it means that any mess that happens is hidden on the inside.
Like that.
All of your seams are kind of tucked in there, and it also protects your seams because anytime they're on the inside, they're less likely to get caught on something and get tugged at and fray and pull. So, first thing I'm going to do is fold this piece in half. What we're doing is this is my folded edge, and this is my 2 flaps edge. I'm going to sew down one side of my folded edge until I get a little bit from the bottom. So again, I'm going to leave a hole so that I can turn this back inside out and end up with the pretty side of the fabric facing out. Then I'm going to sew again here and then over to the other side. To make sure that hole, you're not going to end up with an edge that's uneven, what I like to do is just take a measuring implement of some kind and draw a straight line down where I want the stitches of my fabric to go. So, I'm going to grab my yardstick here. I do this at 1/2 inch. If you're newer to sewing, I would make that a little wider, like 5/8 is something that people often use. You could do 6/8 or 3/4. I wouldn't go too much wider than that because what's going to happen when you turn your piece right side out is that however much of an edge you left is going to be inside of your fabric is going to be double layered, so it's going to add bulk.
Can you
Which-
trim it?
You can trim it, but it's a little bit more tedious. So it's up to you. But I'm gonna do about half an inch here, and I can see that I'm not actually square this piece at the bottom edges, which kind of makes sense. So I'm gonna draw my line square. And then I'm going to mark out in the middle about a 3 or 4 inch opening that I'm going to use to turn my fabric inside out. So, let's see here, there, and we'll go there. And you'll see where those marks are used when I start sewing. Which I'm going to do now.
It is time.
It's time.
Ooh, I'm
So-
gonna switch cameras.
Switching cameras.
Hand camera.
This is where our seam allowance comes into play. Most sewing machines have gauges, so there's little lines to the right side of your presser foot. Those are the lines that you want to follow with the edge of your fabric to get a nice straight line as you're sewing. So for this one, I'm actually going to use the fabric itself as a guide because of the print on the fabric. So I'm going
That's
to
helpful.
kind of just sew. There's like a black line and then an orange line, and I'm going to go for right in between them. But if your fabric didn't have lines on it, you would use your gauge, which actually I've put it in position and I can see that where I'm going is about 5/8. So that'll be useful as I'm going through. I am going to backstitch at the beginning and end of my lines of sewing here, which just means that I'm going to sew forward a bit, then sew backward, then sew forward again. And what that does is it entwines the stitches with each other so that they don't come undone as easily.
Okay.
And luckily, on our nice computerized machine, there's a setting that just does that automatically, so it'll do it every time you start, and then you just have to tell it when to backstitch at the end, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to push my needle down into my fabric here, and sew on along. I'm slowing down because I'm getting to my line that I drew earlier, and that's where I'm going to know how to stop my switching and pivot around. So I'm going to go slower as I get towards that line, and then as soon as I reach it, what I'm going to do is stop sewing, lift up the foot of my machine with my needle still down into my fabric,
Yeah.
and rotate it 90 degrees until I'm right on top of that line again. And then I can keep on stitching. And then I'm just following the purple line until I get to my first little mark where my opening is. And I'm gonna do one more stitch. Then I can hit the reverse button on my machine, and it's gonna go backward and then forward. And that is our first line. Then I can lift up
Yay.
my presser foot and my needle and trim my thread. And now that we've done this side, we can do the other side.
And are you just following a line on the fabric again?
Yeah, so I chose to do this so that I would have the same border on each side so I could hit the same spot.
You're so clever.
Yes. I try to be clever.
I'd probably pick polka
do
dots.
my
It wouldn't help me at all.
Alrighty. Flip that around. And then we'll hit my button to go backward. Snip. Okay. So now that I have tripping on my foot wire, now that I have my piece, I'm ready to turn it inside out. Just put my hand into the hole that I left, go deep into one of these corners here, and pull the whole thing back through. And I should have a nice, pretty, squared piece.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Fussing with this piece as you're turning it inside out to get it to be nice and rounded is one of the most time-consuming parts of this process, because you kind of want to go into each corner and really push it out there, and then once you've got everything pushed out as far as you want it, you want to iron the whole thing so that it lays nice and flat. To save time, I have already done this, and we have a piece where I've completed that process.
It's beautiful and so flat.
It is beautiful and so flat, and there should, if I can find whatever edge I did, found it, there's still a hole in the bottom, which we're going to stitch up when we attach it to the tote bag itself. But you got to be careful of that when you're pressing, because you want to make sure that you get the edges of that hole still aligned nicely. And one thing that you can do, someone mentioned earlier, if you're having trouble getting these corners to turn all the way, you can clip them. So just cut the very tip off the corner, because sometimes the fabric having to stretch around that corner inside causes it to look wonky. So
Okay.
if you're having trouble, that's a good thing to do. So we have our outside pocket. I'm going to set that aside for now. And we're going to move on to our inside pocket, which is a different thing here. I've already pressed my top edge down so that I have a nice corner, again, just to save some time. The first thing we're going to do is stitch down this top edge so that it looks really nice. And you don't need to backstitch when you're stitching this down, because we're going to then sew this whole pocket piece together. And anytime you're going over those lines of stitching, it serves the same purpose as the back stitching. It does the same interlocking. You can do the back stitching, but it's not like the end of the world if you forget to do it.
Good to know.
So, I pressed in about 1/2 inch, and I did it twice so that the raw edge of my fabric is completely hidden. And that is mostly just to stop that raw edge from fraying and catching on stuff. So,
Okay.
fold over
Keep it
twice.
safe.
We'll see that a couple times. And then I'm just going to do a straight line. I'm actually going to flip this over so I can see my edge. And what I'm going for is a straight line that's as close to the bottom edge of my fabric as possible,
Okay.
without going so far over that I'm not stitching on the fold anymore.
Okay.
Alright. Put my needle down in there. A little further.
That is really close.
Yeah. That's something that comes with practice.
Yeah,
So
I don't have that.
I have a lot of practice getting it real close. But
Oh, I can
go
show
back
you.
to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where it ended up. This thread blends in a little bit more on this fabric than it does on my other fabrics, but
That's really
you'll see that again on a different.
Okay.
Okay, so then I've already marked my fold. So the way that this, I'm going to grab my tote body piece. The way that this pocket goes into this tote is that the same way I just folded down this edge, I'm going to fold down the top edges of my actual bag. And this piece is going to sit inside this fold before I stitch it. So
That's pretty clever.
what that looks like is this. The closer you can get this piece to that top fold, the stronger it's going to be, because the more likely it's going to go through both lines of stitching. What that means is that I'm not actually folding my pocket in half. I'm doing it lopsided. I'm leaving the length of my hem on this piece so that I still have a piece
Yeah.
that can go
Room
inside.
to tuck it in. Yeah.
Room to tuck. So, what that means is I'm going to fold over with my right sides together, and I've already ironed it so there's a crease there, and have a fold that looks like that.
Perfect.
And then what I can do is sew down both edges, and then we'll turn this pocket inside out, and we'll
Okay.
be ready to go. I am going to back stitch here because there's not going to be any other stitches holding this in place, and I'm also going to snip a couple of threads before I start doing my stitching. And this is where our seam allowance comes back into play. If we go too far in, the pocket's going to get smaller. So this is where I'm going to stick with my 1/2 inch. And then the other thing that I'm doing is I'm sewing from the fold down the open edge as opposed to sewing from the opening down to the fold. You're never going to get your fold totally perfect, which means that if you start from the open edge, you're going to end up with some wonkiness at the end. So to avoid that, you can just start from the fold, and then it'll press itself into the right position as you're stitching, which is nice. So, line this up at my 1/2 inch. Push my needle down in there. Go down.
That looks great.
You will likely feel, and this will be more apparent with some other steps more than this one, but as you start going over your hem where you already folded down, the machine has to work harder to go through more of those layers of fabric. So you'll feel a bit more resistance there. And sometimes if you have really thick fabric layers, that can cause some issues, but at this point it's not. It's just something you might notice. Alright, I think I press my reverse button. Alright, we've done 1 inch.
I feel like my sewing anxiety, I would backstitch everything.
It's not bad to do that. Like,
Yeah.
you can backstitch everything, and that's fine.
Be a nice Nelly.
It's just sometimes it's not totally necessary.
Totally.
Totally. All right. Gonna line up. This machine is nice because it has your marks on both sides, your guidelines, so that if I want to work with my fabric going into the machine instead of out from the machine, I can.
You still have a guide.
Still have a guide.
Do all
Although
the-
you could pencil them in yourself if you really wanted to, if you didn't have them.
Yeah.
This wouldn't be as perfect. Alrighty.
Pocket 2.
Pocket 2. Okay. It's currently inside out. We're just gonna, and this is where we'll clip our corners here. After I slip my threads. I'm just gonna go right at the corner, being careful not to cut into the stitching that I just spent a lot of time making perfect. This spot, it's not like the end of the world if you didn't do this, but
It just
it
helps.
does help make it look nicer and feel nicer. Now I can grab in here and turn it inside out. And because I have a larger opening, it's going to be much easier to manipulate my corners
Mm-hmm.
to get them nice and neat. Kind of just roll it around a little bit. There
That looks great.
is my pocket. I'm gonna go over to that corner and give it a quick press, and then it will be ready and we can move on to our strap.
Okay. I'll still have you on the camera.
Oh, awesome.
Is there a particular setting that it needs to be on?
You want it to match whatever your fabric. So most irons have settings for types of fabric.
Okay.
So if you're using a synthetic, you want it to be on the synthetic setting, which is normally a lower heat. And if you're using a cotton iron, then you want it to be on a pretty high setting.
Okay. While we are on an ironing break, which I'm realizing is a big part of sewing, our next MAKElive will be February 23rd at 12, and we will be having artist Brittany Ann, who will be performing on the cello some original pieces, talking about her inspirations behind her music. It's going to be a must-see, so please tune in for that.
That was like perfect timing.
I know.
Very nicely done. Okie dokie. I have a pressed pocket piece. It's now nice and flat. These little foldovers here that are going to happen from where we did the seams on our top flap. If you were going to have your pocket hanging down further, those would be annoying. But if you've got it lined up right, they should be completely contained once you actually sew the pocket
That
into
looks
the,
really
into the
satisfying.
bag. It is very satisfying.
Yes,
It's extremely satisfying.
that looks so good.
One of the nice things about this tote bag, like as a project, is it lets you practice a lot of your base skills on something that you'll probably actually use,
Mhm.
as opposed to like I'm trying to think of some other projects that I see. I don't know. I made like a shirt collar that I never touch as one of my first projects. There's a lot of beginner projects that I
They can be on your mantle.
yeah, they can kind of sit around, but they won't actually get used. But that's why I like this one. So,
Yeah.
moving on to our strap. I did not press this one because I wanted to show you guys how it's going to happen. But this is one of our shoulder straps. I've already finished the process of our other two for time-saving purposes. What I'm doing here is I'm folding in about 1/2 inch on both sides of my strap piece. Like that. I'll hold this up. People can see.
Yes.
And then once I've done that, I'm gonna fold the whole thing in half, and that's gonna end up with our finished strap width.
Perfect.
And then I'm going to stitch. First, I'm gonna stitch the side that is open, so that it's held together, and then I like to stitch the other side too, because I find it makes the whole strap more stable and it looks nicer.
Mhm.
You can see on my demo bags here, especially if you're using a bit of a lighter fabric for your straps, these ones have kind of like bunched up over time, and I did not do this stitching both sides down on this one initially. I think this was the first one I made. So I'm still kind of figuring it out.
Mhm.
But you're less likely to see as much of that bunching if you sew down both sides.
Give it more structure.
Yeah. You could also, if you really don't want to have the bunch effect, you could use some interfacing on the inside of your fabric fused in there, and that would also provide some stability. But that's more involved than we have time for.
Come back next
Come
time.
back next time. So I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna do my little pressy press on this guy, and then I will show you the sewing part.
I feel like I would need 12 hands to hold all that together. I have noticed that you also are not using any pens or clips to hold anything together.
Oh, yeah, that's a bad habit of mine.
Ah. I put it right there with not needing scissors.
It takes a lot of time to put your. I do have clips. I use clips more often than I use pins.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if I'm doing something in a straight line, I find that I often don't really need the.
she doesn't need it.
Especially if
I need heaps.
Especially if I press ahead of time,
Yeah.
which helps a lot.
Yeah.
It's, I think where other people cheat is that they don't press.
So speaking of Fiona's awesome skills, she does offer 101s like once a month here, specifically designed for intro to sewing, sewing basics, and sometimes specific crafts. And she lives here in the makerspace with me at the Northeast Regional Library, so you guys can always come and pick her brain, or sign up for one of her very popular classes. But it's a great time. And you're always, it's like machines or you'll do,
I did machines most recently. Next month I'm gonna do all about fabric. So
yes.
all the different fabrics out there in the world. Probably not all of them.
But
we're gonna cover some of the ones that
narrowly.
you're likely to encounter.
Yes, because we have been talking, we used ISO, but ISO very specifically for puppet making. And so the fabrics I use are very different from the
Yes.
fabrics she uses. And
Which leads to differences in our
yeah,
technique.
we have a lot of fun because I do a lot of fur. So I wish I could rip the fur that way.
Yeah.
That would be great for me.
That would probably save you a lot of time.
It would. Do you all sew? Yeah.
I'm looking to get into it to like as a way to like patch my clothes so they last longer.
Yes. Yeah,
It
that
just
would
sounded
be a
like
great
fun,
class
so
too.
Stop by.
Yeah.
I did a mending program at some point last year. I think it still needs to be fine-tuned a little bit to get it right. But the idea was that you just brought in something that needed to be mended, and we would just kind of discuss how that would happen. Which might be a fun, actually that'd be a really
Yes.
fun MAKElive. It's just
We could
bring
darn
in-
some socks together.
Bring in a thing and
Yeah.
I'll show you how to fix it. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so I've got my folded down pressed piece, and I'm gonna go in. I am gonna backstitch. I don't think it's super necessary because these are gonna get super sewn down, but I'll go ahead and do it just to keep the strap together. Here we go. Right on in there. And this is another section where you want to get as close to your edge as possible. It's going to be harder though because there's no fabric on the other side. So, alrighty. That was that chugging right along where I did piece this seam or this strap together. So it was
Yeah.
chugging as it went through the more layers.
It's such a long strap.
It is. This is the shorter one.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh my stars! I feel like we've been sewing.
All right. There we go.
What a journey.
What a journey indeed. So, what is inevitably going to happen as you're doing that stitching is that you're going to get a little bit misaligned and wonky. So, I'll actually put it in front of the
Okay.
closer camera so you can see where all of that curving is happening here. As that happens, which is pretty much inevitable, especially if you're newer, it's going to happen more. The way to fix that is just to give this another press after you've done the sewing, but before you sew down the other side.
Okay.
My watch is going crazy. So I'm gonna
Sounds like
there,
sewing is
put
just
the-
ironing
Yeah,
in disguise.
there's more prepping and cutting and lining things up. Much more of that than there is actually stitching.
Yeah.
Especially if you're using a sewing machine. If you're doing it by hand, then you're going to get a lot more time actually stitching. But
Yes.
all right, I'm going to press this real quick,
Okay.
and then we'll come back and sew down the other edge.
Does my in-studio audience have any questions? Have you all made totes before? No. I feel like this would be a great gift.
I own a lot of totes.
Step
My
one.
favorite reusable shopping bag.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright.
Okay. The second stitch.
Here we go. Second round.
Stitch for strength.
Going in on the other edge. Alrighty. And you should have less of that wiggling distortion the second go round because you're really just stitching things down, not stitching things together. Chunk, chunk, chunk.
It's great because a lot of these skills can be applied to so many of these sewing projects.
Yeah. This is a really great beginner project for a lot of reasons. That's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. I didn't backstitch because it's not really gonna be.
Nobody's gonna judge you.
Nobody's judging me. And then we have a finished strappy strap.
Nice.
And luckily we only had to do that once because I did the other two the other day.
Magic.
Then we're ready to start putting our tote bag together.
I am so excited.
So
Where do we start?
we're gonna start by, and I've done this ahead of time, pressing an inch down twice on either side of our bag.
Okay.
To create where our hem is gonna be. And then we're gonna take the whole thing and fold it in half and make a nice crease on the bottom edge,
Okay.
which I've already done again
By ironing?
by ironing.
Okay. This is sponsored by ironing.
Sponsored by the iron. Then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna fold my whole thing in half once again.
Okay.
Gonna find that middle point and kind of put my finger on it. This is where heat disappearing pen is really useful because I'm gonna make this mark and it'll disappear. And I don't have to worry about it. I'm gonna mark that middle.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna take my pocket piece.
Inside pocket. Or is
This
this
is
the,
the outside.
outside pocket?
You could do either, it doesn't really matter what order. I'm gonna find the hole, and the hole needs to be on what's gonna become my bottom edge. I'm gonna fold this in half, so the hole should be getting folded in half. And I'm gonna mark that middle.
Okay.
And then I can line up one middle mark with the other middle mark and then move my pocket piece down so that I know it's right in the middle and I've got it right where I want it on my tote bag.
Brilliant.
This is the most important thing to remember when you're doing this step, is to keep that hole opening at the bottom of your bag. So your hole should be pointing towards the folded edge of your bag.
Okay.
Because we need to make sure that we actually stitch down and close that hole so that it doesn't become a problem later on. And this is where I actually will use pins. Because I
Hey-o.
want to keep this piece exactly where I've got it
Okay.
in the middle of my bag. Didn't get out pins ahead of time because I wasn't thinking. But we do. I know we
Right here?
have a bunch of them. Thank you.
Yes.
You want to make sure also when you do this that you're not pinning through both layers of your tote bag. So once you have it where you want it, you might just unfold. I'll line that back up.
Otherwise, you'll
So that-
have a pocket and no bag.
A pocket and no bag, exactly. Not sure.
Sounds like something I would do.
I'm just gonna pin at my corners here. You could pin with more pins all the way around. Because this is in the middle, you can't really use clips, which would be my preference, but
Mhm.
it's impossible. Not impossible. It's not recommended. Gonna get bunching that's gonna cause problems. Alrighty. Is there a question? Or just me? So now I've got my 4 corners pinned. I'm going to sew down one edge, the bottom edge, and then back up. And then we'll leave the top open, and that will be where we go into our pocket.
Beautiful.
I am going to backstitch at the beginning and the end. And this is another as close to the edge as possible situation.
Okay.
Because that looks nice. And do definitely make sure that your tote is unfolded at this point so that you're not sewing the 2 sides of your tote bag together. Then you wouldn't have a bag.
Right. That's my bag.
We've all made some sort of mistake like that though
Right.
on our sewing journey. Like it happens at least once to everyone.
That's the seam
So
ripper.
you should take your pins out before your machine goes over them so that your needle doesn't hit your pin and then cause problems. So you'll see me kind of stop a little bit before each pin and just take it out. And I've still got my machine on my back stitch setting. We'll go down a bit. Make sure I'm unfolded. I'm gonna slow
Pin.
down as I'm approaching that pin so I can take it out safely. And then I'm going to slow down as I approach this corner so that I can get as close as possible to the edge of it before I pick up my foot and rotate.
Okay.
I'm going to have to kind of fold my fabric in here a bit so that it can sit on the inside of the machine smoothly. Just like that. And then put my foot down and get back to stitching. You might see a little bit of puckering happening as you go over the opening where we turned that pocket. And it won't be super noticeable by the end. But that's why it's happening, is because those layers aren't sewn down together yet.
We'll probably be ironing again.
Nope, we shouldn't need to, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, iron.
Alrighty. If you got it nice and flat already, you should be good to go. Up our last edge here.
And I guess we already went over that hole.
We did. We went
No
over that hole on
issues.
the bottom edge. And back stitch so it's nice and strong.
Okay, let's see.
And there is our pocket on the front of our bag.
Beautiful.
Looks super nice.
It's so cute.
It's very cute.
I love how the pocket's gonna match that long strap.
Yeah,
A
that's
little
fun.
pop.
Nice little pop. And I'm gonna snip my thread tails on the inside and outside of the bag here. And now we are ready to move on to our inside pocket and our straps.
Okay.
So we still have that middle mark on the bag, and I'm gonna make a middle mark on my pocket here, right there. What I like to do is line up the pocket first and then line up the straps to match the pocket. So carry that over. I've lined up the mark on the pocket, the mark on the bag, so I've got it nice in the middle. And then I'm going to take, not this one, we're going to take one of our two shorter straps,
Okay.
and we're going to put that in, and it's going to go all the way up as well. Just a little bit wider than our pocket was. And you want to check here, and I've already messed up.
Uh-oh.
It's okay, because we've checked. I can fix it. You want to check as you're putting this in that you're not getting your strap twisted. Because when you stitch down, you can't go fix that. So what you want is for, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. You're gonna get an arc a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to have a full twist around.
Yes.
Alrighty.
And you could probably pin and do a check.
Yes, you can. I'm gonna clip. I'm gonna clip where the pocket is, on the edge, and in the middle. And then I'm gonna clip where the straps are. What is eventually gonna happen is that I'm gonna fold these straps back over and sew them down a second time to make it super strong. But at first, I'm only gonna keep the strap in line, and I'm just gonna stitch right down, again, as close to the edge as possible,
Okay.
of the fold of the bag itself. And that'll hold everything in place. I got a fuzzy on my bag. Take this over. Because we're doing that, the edge where the clips are not, I won't have to move the clips as I'm stitching,
That's great.
which is really nice.
Yeah, keeps everything in place.
Keeps everything in place. We are going to go over these edges again, so you don't, in theory, need to backstitch, but you could if you wanted to.
Yes. We know I would.
This is where you're going to really start feeling that chug, because the strap itself is 3 layers of fabric,
Mm-hmm.
and then we've got 3 layers from the tote bag hem, and we've got the pocket pieces. So you'll start to feel it chugging. You might just need to go a little bit more slowly to keep the machine feeding even.
That looked great. The pink's really
Yeah.
popping now.
The pink is popping. That's what we want. Okay. Then, once we've got this side in, which I will do, I'm going to use the strap on this side to line up where my strap on the other side of the bag is going to go. So I'm just going to kind of unfold my hem here and grab this one and line up my straps with each other. There's no pocket on this side, it's just the strap. And again, we're making sure not to get it twisted as we are placing. Just looks good.
Looks good.
And then we're going to go through again. Put this guy in place.
Okay.
Threads are all twisted up on the back of my machine here. Double checking, make sure I'm not twisted.
Yeah, you kind of have to have your wits about you.
Yeah.
That looks great.
Okie dokie. So now I've got my straps on both sides, and they should be nice and lined up because
Yeah.
I line them up with each other.
It's a deconstructed bag there.
And a deconstructed bag. Put it together. I have seen some people have bags where they have it stitched up the sides for like sticks or wire
Yeah.
things and
Mhm.
stuff. So you could stop here.
I could call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Mhm.
good on it. Yeah, I have the I have an instruction packet, and I have the chart which has each of the rectangles and what size they need to be. So
Thank you so much.
yeah. The next thing we're gonna do is fold our straps back over and stitch down the top edge. So
Okay.
this is adding some extra stability to the strap, which we're going to do even more of later. But it'll also be some nice top stitching on the bag
Mhm.
that'll look pretty.
Yeah, that looks really good.
Yeah.
Gives it that professional look.
Yeah. I recommend lining up the straps before you do the fold over, just because I find it a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
But
And we're gonna do what you do, Fiona.
okay, you're welcome to do that. Here we go. I'm just slowing down as I get to the point where the strap is coming up so that I can make sure it's nice and square at that spot.
What a machine. It went right over it.
I know. I like these machines.
Mm-hmm.
They're good. Okay. And then we will do that again on the other side of our bag. Flip it around. Getting it folded. We're, believe it or not, getting very close to having a full bag here.
Yeah, it's all come together
It's
so
all
quickly.
coming together.
And secures the pocket more.
Yep, secures the pocket more.
And I guess artistically, you could add as many lines as you wanted here.
You could. I'm gonna. I like to do. I'll hold it up. This little boxy square thing.
Yes.
At the very end, that really holds those straps down.
Yeah, that's fun.
Alrighty. Our last strap, our shoulder strap, doesn't go in until the bag is already sewn up. So our next step is to sew up the sides of our bag. And if you don't want a shoulder strap, then you will have a functional bag. I'm gonna snip my threads here. And then to avoid having raw edges on the inside of our bag, I like to do a French seam at this point, which sounds super fancy.
It
does
does.
sound fancy. But I think they have a reputation for being more intimidating than I actually think they are. But this is one of like the only things in sewing that you do with your wrong sides together. So your right side's facing out at the starch. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to sew. We need to narrow our seam allowance because we're going to double fold this. So instead of using my 1/2 inch, I'm going to go for about 1/4 inch. If you can get smaller, I would do slightly smaller, especially if you tore your fabric like I did for this, you're gonna have more like frayage on the edge, more roughage. I would cut that off if you're gonna do a super narrow, but we want to make sure that all of that gets contained. So we're going to go narrower on the first line of stitching, and then the second line of stitching that we do after we've turned it is going to be wider, and that will keep all of our edges tucked inside each other, and we won't have to look at them. So I'm going to go with a 1/4 inch, and I've got my bag nice and lined up. I can feel that I've got a little bit of change in where my crease needs to be. I'm just going to kind of finger press that. And I'm going to sew like we did with the inner pocket. I'm going to sew from the fold down to the opening as opposed to from the opening to the fold, so that we don't get wonky.
Okay.
And we do want to backstitch here. Line it up. Super, super narrow, so it's like not even coming out the edge of my foot.
Yeah.
Chug, 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 chug. So many layers.
It did it.
It did it. Alright.
Okay.
We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, I'm gonna flip it over a bit from the folds to the edge.
Okay. Close, close.
My threads aren't going through my foot right.
Chub. Okay.
Back stitch.
Now,
Very important to back stitch in this part. We don't want our bag to come apart.
now the French seam part.
Now the French seam part. We do have more ironing to do. Just a tiny bit. So we're going to trim our tails. And we're going to turn our bag back inside out. And make sure that we've got real nice corners here. And then as you press, you want to try to get the seam that you just sewed as close to where you end up pressing as possible. So you can kind of press so that the seam ends up kind of rolled inside itself. That is not what we want for a French seam. We want to make sure that we're pressing all the way out. This fabric, luckily, is pretty easy to do that with, and because we have such a wide opening from our bag, I can kind of really get in there and guide it with my fingers. It can also help to kind of roll it a bit between your fingers,
Okay.
like that. And you kind of want to be able to see. This is another place where it helps if you're using thread that stands out, is that I know it's in the right space when I can start to see my threads.
Like on the edge?
On the edge.
Okay.
So I can start to see my little pink threads. I know I'm doing good.
Okay.
So, and then I'll do the same thing here on the other side, and then press our tote flat, and we will be ready to go. Bring it over.
So you're just ironing those two sides?
Yeah, so you want the whole thing to end up flat, but most of the ironing is going to need to be at those two sides to make that happen.
Okay. Well, I love that we're going to be left today with basically a step-by-step tutorial of how to make this tote bag. So I'm going to try to make one. If you all do, would love for you all to send in pictures of your Fiona totes. I feel like this is totally doable.
Totally.
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 She did it. That one wasn't me.
You can play.
So please send them in. And it would also be fun because you could like print on the bag.
Yeah. So that blue snake one that I made.
Yes.
I did some heat transfer vinyl on our silhouette cutter that we have here in the makerspace, and put that on there.
How can we use some of the equipment in here?
Yes, great question. How can you use the makerspace? We do have a really easy online 5-minute orientation. So you can complete it at home, or you could come into the library and do it here. And then you can reserve the equipment or check in to see if there's a walk-in availability. Several of our branch locations have makerspaces with different kind of machines. Here at the Northeast Regional Library, we have the Glowforge, the Bamboo, the sewing machines, and the green room and the recording booth, as well as our new demo kitchen for the Yes Chef residency. So you could check out how to make pretzels this Thursday.
I'm gonna be at the pretzel program.
Yeah,
I'm so
it's
excited about
at
the
6
pretzels.
o'clock.
Yeah.
Who's not?
I'm so excited about the pretzels. So, I've got myself re-ironed. You will notice that, especially if you're using fabric, it's a little bit a lighter color, so it's not as opaque. You can kind of see through it. You'll be able to see the tiny seam that you just did. We want to make sure that we are going wider than that seam when we do this next round of sewing. So that seam was 1/4 inch. I would go to 1/2 inch to 5/8. I'm going to do 5/8. If you go wider, what's going to happen is you're going to have more of a flap on the inside of your bag. So I wouldn't do much wider than 5/8. But going narrower, you run the risk of not fully encapsulating the raw edge that we just created on the inside of the bag. So it's a little bit of a balancing act, and that's really the trickiest part of a French seam. But what doing it this way means is that I don't have any raw edge that is going to catch on anything on the inside of this bag once I start putting stuff in it.
Okay.
Which is very good to have.
Mhm.
So I recommend it. There's a couple other ways that you could do this. You could do a regular seam and then fellet, which means basically fold in the corners and whip stitch it down. You typically have to do that by hand, and it is a little bit tedious and more involved.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but
we're gonna do it your way.
yeah. I mean, I felt stuff all the time. I love doing a felt seam. I find it relaxing, but it is tedious. So, again, we're working from the fold down to the opening, and we're going to back stitch. It's very important at this part to back stitch.
So a French seam, is this the French seam part? We're just running a stitch along.
This is the French seam part. This is the magic happening right now.
I could totally do this.
I know. I don't know why. I'm confused why French seams have a reputation for being so intimidating, because I really don't think that they're that hard.
Let's get word out on the street.
Yeah.
We can all French seam.
You can French seam. You can do it. Alrighty. Up. That's my back stitch.
And then we're just gonna do that to
And
the
then
other
we're just
side.
going to do that to the other side, and then we will have a bag.
Yay!
Alright.
Fold.
From the fold,
I'm learning.
going down. It is very important, whatever amount you use, you want to be even on both sides, because otherwise you're going to mess up with the centering of all of your other stuff.
Oh, good call.
So, do pay attention to that. Really chugging,
It did it, though.
but it did it. Alright, there's my back stitch.
Do we have a bag?
We have a bag.
Yay, drum roll.
I'm going to turn it inside out here.
Oh, that looks so good.
And there is
You could put all your library books
a
in
bag.
there.
You could put so many library books in there.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
There it goes.
It's totally amazing.
Amazing.
I love it.
There are some
Terrific.
more things that you can do to secure the straps, and if you wanted to add your crossbody strap at this point. we can do that. But we've already run over, so
Yeah, we have run over.
by quite a bit.
But it was worth it,
was
because you all could make this at home,
Yeah,
and it's gonna
it's
live on our
totally
YouTube
doable.
channel for people to follow along with. And it's such a great thing to be able to make.
Yeah, it's a great project. It is, because you're sewing almost entirely in straight lines, it's pretty easy and beginner friendly.
Even though it has a French seam.
Even though it has a French seam, but it's also super practical and something that I use these tote bags all the time,
Yeah.
constantly.
Well, let's leave our audience wanting more. They can always come in, like we said,
Yes.
and you can ask.
The instruction packet does tell you how to do that maxi stitch that I showed you and how to put the shoulder or the crossbody strap in there. So you can find it places, and you can also just come bother me.
Yes. Fiona, thank you so much.
thank you
We are so thankful for your time and your talents. MAKElive needs people like you.
Aww.
So join us next time, February 23rd, artist Brittany Ann and her cello. So we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Fiona.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for coming. I'm glad you were able to stick through.